Hello and welcome to Bright Blue Innovation. I'm Lidia Paulinska and I'm delighted to be your host. In the complex times of mobile, home, work, and the cloud, all having data, as well as the huge amount of the data being created that have to be stored, it's good to know that there are groups helping to make sure it all works for us to rely on. On today's show, we will talking to the members of Storage Networking Industry Association, also known as SNIA or SNIA. The trade association has activities that included developing standards, promoting technologies, and education services. The SNIA is one of the technology-centered nonprofit global organizations that are headquartered in US. Formed in December 1997, SNIA is the group of some of 400 member companies covering the global data storage and IT markets. We are talking to the members of an SNIA during their annual Storage Developer Conference. Our first guest is Mark Carlson. He is the chair of technical council of the SNIA. In addition to his role at this organization, he holds a technology position at Toshiba. Welcome, Mark, and thank you for being here with us today. So, what's your involvement with SNIA?
So as you mentioned, Lydia, I am the chair of the Technical Council this year, and the Technical Council is the steering group for all the technical activities at the SNIA. All the technical work groups report into the Technical Council when they want to change their charter or work on new work items. They bring that to the TC to make sure it doesn't conflict with other technical work going on in the TC.
So, how is the Technical Council organized and how does it manage the technical work groups?
Yes, well, we have a number of technical work groups that periodically do reports to the Technical Council. As I mentioned, when they want to change their charter, they come to the TC as well. Also, the TC looks out over the horizon and sees what other technical work needs to be done in the SNIA. Recently, we created a solid-state storage system technical work group to work on things like all-flash array performance and other things. We've also created an object drive technical work group to work on interoperability around object drives. These are Ethernet-connected, IP-based drives that can be used in a storage system without having to have a lot of the stack of file systems, volume managers, SCSI drivers, and so forth. We're looking over the horizon and seeing hyperscalers now coming in with specific requirements for storage devices. And so we want to get ahead of that, understand what those requirements are, understand what the impacts are on some of the other standards that we have. So we've done a white paper now on hyperscaler storage. You can go out to the SNIA site and get that, and then better understand both what these requirements are and how the various standards such as T10, T13, MVM Express can address those requirements with new features coming in the standards.
So, does the SNIA work with other standards group and organization?
Certainly, yeah. Besides the ones I mentioned of T10, T13, which are with Insights, and MVM Express, which is a separate working group, we also work with security standards organizations, cloud standards organizations, like the Green Grid, we work with them. And we have alliances with these companies that allow them to feed back into our specs, and vice versa, we can feed back into their specifications as well. So we're always looking for new groups to work with. OpenStack is one we'd like to work closer with because they're creating open source in the cloud. And a lot of these standards that SNIA has developed are appropriate for the cloud. One example there is the Cloud Data Management Interface, or CDMI. We just took the second version of that to ISO this year, so that's now an ISO standard 17826:2016. And that allows interoperable management of your data once you do get it in the cloud, something that a lot of cloud providers are still working on.
So what are some major topics and technologies that the Technical Council is addressing right now?
Yeah, well, we had several talks that I was involved in. I was on the main stage on Tuesday morning talking about the TC Hyperscaler paper, and that was preceded by Dan Maslowski from Citibank talking about how his company is building data centers, not with the traditional enterprise storage, but with commodity, best-in-class components, software-defined storage, using ODM direct vendors to supply them with pods after pods of the storage, coupled with the CPU necessary to run the software-defined storage. I was also on a shingled magnetic recording panel talking about how that's coming along, and it looks like that's going to finally see some light of day next year. So hopefully the infrastructures required for some of these new technologies are coming along as well. Not just shingled magnetic recording changes to the operating systems and hypervisors, but also the persistent memory changes that are going to be needed for taking advantage of a new class of memory, not just DRAM, but now persistent memory, accessible, bytely accessible from the CPU itself. What impacts are that going to have on the applications? Well, we have a technical work group called the NVM programming model that is looking into that in depth. They've released their first version of that, but there's still things to work on there. In fact, we have a technical work group meeting this afternoon. So we had very good attendance at STC this year, very high quality speakers. Everybody that's come to me has said that they love what we're doing with this conference. They get information here that they just can't get at any other conference or even webcasts.
So if you would like the viewers to take one message about SNIA, what that would be?
Sure, yeah. The hyperscalers are really looking for more deterministic responses to their software using the storage. So in one case, that means that they're trying to address something called tail latency. Tail latency is where a single drive out of an entire RAID stripe might respond anywhere from 2 to 10 times longer than the other drives in that same RAID stripe. Because the entire RAID stripe needs to be returned to the user, that delays the overall response. And they're finding that this happens anywhere between 1.5% and 2.2% of the time. So if you're Facebook, for example, that could mean 1 out of every 100 of your customers are getting a slow response. And that causes problems for their own customers. So if we can address that with some of the new standards that are coming along, get more deterministic about the response times from the drives, this is going to require some give and take on both sides, right? The drive vendors are going to have to expose more of their architecture to the host drivers, and the host drivers are going to have to, by understanding that, sequence their operations to the drive to get their own best responses.
And if you wouldn't mind the last follow-up questions, you mentioned that you are trying to expand the membership to include both customers and vendors to the organization. Will they be able to join and participate?
Well, the SNIA has a critical mass of storage companies that are involved in the standards development, whether they're developing standards at T10, T13, NVM Express, or some of the other organizations. SNIA is the place to come to get sort of cooperation from all the storage vendors. And we'd really like to have the hyperscalers involved with us directly, become SNIA members. Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, Amazon. These folks can get what they need by coming together with us in a common format and working out the details. What doesn't seem to be working, though, is when they go to an individual drive vendor and they ask for specific features that they're not, that are not in common with these other companies, right? And they do this because they don't want to reveal too much about their own infrastructure to their competitors. Whereas they're selling the idea that you shouldn't have to manage your own infrastructure. On the other hand, they are they really see their own infrastructure management as a special secret sauce that they want to keep inside of their own company.
Of course. Thank you very much, Mark, for that insight on the technical council. Now we are going to discuss the education aspect of SNIA with Paul Talbut, who is a Global Education Director for SNIA. Welcome, Paul, and thank you for being here with us today. What is your involvement with SNIA?
So I'm SNIA's Global Education Director, and my responsibility is to look after the global certification program. So SNIA has made a huge investment in training and certification, and so we developed the certification exams using subject matter experts from the industry and our member companies, and create a series of exams that test the skills and knowledge of storage professionals around the world. So this is important because it's really the only vendor-neutral exam and test of storage skills that exists in the world, and goes to complement many of the vendor-specific training and certification programs that go on within the major storage vendor companies themselves. So we feel that we're providing a set of generic testing mechanisms for storage professionals.
Tell us more about certification program.
Yes, the certification program, as I said, is a global operation, and we've got 3 levels of certification. So our first level is the foundations level, and teaches people basic storage skills, and for passing that exam you get the storage certified professional credential. We then move on into areas of storage management and administration, and then also assessment, planning and design, and there are 2 other levels of certification associated with that. So we're bringing people through foundational level, and then advanced level, and then the design level to bring them into the storage market, and hopefully make them equipped with generic skills, because of course, as most people will know, in current data centers there isn't just one type of storage or one vendor of storage. Data centers are complex environments, and so people need to be taught about the complexities of the enterprise architecture and be equipped with that knowledge. The second important thing is, of course, having a high stakes exam is important to employers who are looking to hire people, and so having the SNIA certification on your resume shows that you've got a basic understanding of the storage industry and the technology that lives within it.
Tell us more about certification program and explain what's a difference between education and certification is.
Yes, I've talked about the certification program. That's a formal assessment of skills and knowledge. SNIA, of course, is well known in the industry for its educational program. It's one of the 2 pillars of SNIA, education and standards development. And so if you look at everything that we do as an industry association, we provide the storage industry with vendor-neutral education. So anything from events like we're at today, our tutorial program, which is a comprehensive series of technical seminars that we make available. We do webcasts and podcasts. We're doing white papers and articles, best practice guides. We produce dictionaries. There's a whole variety of educational information about storage technology that the SNIA uses to enhance the awareness amongst the community of storage technology, and hopefully make people better informed.
What are some of major topics and technologies your group is addressing at the near future?
Yeah, I think that's one of our biggest challenges, is trying to keep pace with technology involvement. You know, SNIA will be celebrating its 20th anniversary next year, so we've been present in the industry for a long time. And of course, if you could go back to our history, you'll find that we were founded on advancing what was called storage area networks. that's changed out of all recognition now. And so today and in the future we'll be talking about certainly cloud adoption. We'll be talking about the involvement of flash memory and storage in the data center. We've just released our new specification called Swordfish, which is looking at the storage management market. And so we've had to adapt quite rapidly with the way that the world is using IT and maintain our relevance in the industry and the IT community in general. No, my role this week is to get involved in various committees within SNIA. I have various roles to fulfill, and I'm here really as a support mechanism to the general SNIA support staff. I do have responsibilities elsewhere to the international community within SNIA as well. I help support that program, so I have a wide variety of support activities as well.
If you would like the viewer to take away one message about SNIA, what that would be?
The most important one for me, being the Global Education Director, is telling people that there is somewhere you can come to where you can be assured of information that is vendor neutral, that will inform you and educate you about storage technology and make you better equipped to deal with the challenges that you face in your job role back at your company. So the certification program is there as a vendor neutral certification program to give you the basic understanding and generic skills that you need, and you can then go on to advance your knowledge with vendor specific training, but to get that grounding in basic storage terms and knowledge, we're the place to come.
Some of the other conferences are looking at persistent memory, new flash technologies and new storage. How the SNIA is addressing the education for those technologies?
So our certification program is constantly being refreshed, and I guess that has to be the case, because clearly we want anybody taking a storage exam to be tested on the most current technology. So there is a standard refresh program that we align ourselves with, which is industry standard, and so our exam content gets reviewed and refreshed every 3 years. And that's done deliberately to make sure that the topics within the exam are contemporary and are a true test of current technology, so that we can be confident that people going out into the market for employment with this certificate in their hand, employers can look at that and understand that the people who hold that certificate and it being current are up to date with current technology. We couldn't do what we do unless we had the support of all of our member companies. So if you look at our certification program, for example, we use subject matter experts who help us develop the content itself, the exam questions and answers. So we rely very heavily on that. But elsewhere, when I've talked about the educational materials and tools that we use, they're all developed and peer-reviewed internally to SNIA using the expertise that we have within the industry and our member companies. So we really are a facilitator in that respect of harnessing the skills and the expertise that's within our member companies to develop these materials, but more importantly, to have them peer-reviewed so that the industry can accept that they are vendor neutral and can support it as a vendor neutral position.
Thank you very much for that insight on the educational activities. And our last guest is Tom Couglin of Couglin Associates. Tom is also organizer of sessions and on several of the activities committees with SNIA. Welcome to the show, Tom. What's your role in storage industry, and how did you become the part of SNIA?
Thank you. So I've actually worked in the storage industry for over 35 years, and earlier in my career I worked at several companies as an engineer, as an engineering manager, and an executive. Since 2000 I've had my own consulting firm, And I've been involved in consulting at various times, from technical work to due diligence for investors to various other things. I also write reports on digital storage technology and markets and applications, and I created and organized several conferences. I'm the creator of the Storage Visions and Creative Storage Conference, and also I've been the general chair of the Flash Memory Summit for the last 10 years. I'm also active in SNIA, as you mentioned. I'm most active right now in the SNIA Solid State Storage Initiative, SSSI, which seeks to work on standards and activities to facilitate the development of solid state storage solutions.
So, Tom, as storage has been shifting from the end user and corporate locations to the cloud, why there a need for follow technology trends if you're a user?
So there is a lot of storage in the cloud. It's probably one big data centers and the internet is probably one of the biggest growth areas for digital storage as well as other computing technology. However, that being said, there's still going to be a need for local storage as well. For instance, people will have data that they'd like to keep private perhaps, and they might want to have that on a local storage device. Also, the development of Internet of Things and local networking to support connected intelligent devices will probably lead to both local as well as enhanced cloud storage. So I really see that digital storage is required in memory. So this hierarchy of digital storage and memory is required all throughout the whole computing architecture and computing network connected architecture. And so therefore, there's local storage, there's going to be closer network storage, and then finally things that are on the broader net up in the cloud. I think they're all growing, they're all supporting each other.
So, what are some of the key applications and technologies that your group is addressing right now?
So cloud storage is, of course, one of those. There's the whole hyperscale data centers where they have humongous amounts of servers and storage and networking capability is a growth area. It's actually driving a lot of development of storage technologies. A lot more move into commodity, open source, software-defined storage, the commodity hardware. There's interesting trends in that. Really exciting developments. You tie that also now into the development of new storage technologies and expansion of the whole hierarchy of storage and memory devices. You've got, of course, flash memory, which is assuming great importance now in the enterprise and also in the consumer space, of course. But in addition to that, there's new solid-state storage technologies that are out there. Intel and Micron have their 3D cross-point memory, which they announced last year, and presumably by the end of this year, the beginning of this next year, there will be products out there. They're tying that into an enterprise server platform that they're planning on rolling out in 2017. Then there's technologies such as magnetic random access memory, which actually has endurance like that of DRAM, has a speed like that of DRAM for conventional computer memory, but it's not volatile. So something like that could dramatically change both consumer and enterprise storage devices. And already it's being used for caching and buffering applications, but soon also an embedded application that could go into your phone or other technologies, which should really help a lot in certainly saving power, for example. So that's another important trend. The other thing is just that the sheer amount of things that we are generating. By our nature, people create content, people create new knowledge, new information. That now ends up in digital storage. Digital storage is the record we leave, for ourselves and for future generations. So the variety, the complexity, the depth of our knowledge and information about ourselves and the world around us is increasing. That is a huge trend. It's driving digital storage, both local and in the cloud. So,
what is the role of the member companies, and what are the requirements to become a member of SNIA?
So the general requirements for to be participating in SNIA activities is become a member, pay your dues, become a member. You can do that and get tied into various efforts that are going on. For example, Solid State Storage Initiative or storage management. Various things that SNIA is involved in there. They work on standards. They work on certification. There's that here at the Storage Developers Conference. In fact, there's a plug fest, or two plug fests that are going on. One where they're working on the new kinetic drive, so it's an internet native hard disk drives, and they were doing that earlier in the week, and now they have a general plug fest that's involving a great many companies in the industry that's been going on at the event. But SNIA also puts on conferences like the Storage Developers Conference, which have some very interesting technical talks talking about all different aspects of digital storage. So the membership can tie you into those things, get you involved in those activities, also give you opportunities to speak and talk about what you do and the value you add to the industry yourself for a company that's a member.
So, you were the panelist and the moderator at the conference. What are the topics of your panels?
I actually was involved in 3 different sessions. I was the moderator for a session on shingled magnetic recording, which is a method for increasing the storage capacity of hard disk drives by partially overlapping tracks on top of each other. That's why they call it shingling, but it allows you to get a higher track density and therefore a higher capacity in the hard drive. I was also co-speaker with Jim Handy in a session which on how many IOPS you need. Basically, we did a report in 2012 on that topic, and then we updated that, kept the survey going that the report was based on, updated that in 2016, so we're comparing how things have changed since 2016. The last session that I was in was with Walt Hubis, and we were talking about self-encrypted drive technology and why that's needed, what's going on, and how that can become more widely used, especially among client and consumer applications.
So the last question, one message about SNIA2 as a takeaway for the viewers, what that would be?
So the message that I think viewers should have about what the Storage Networking Industry Association is a collection of people and companies that are trying to push the envelope in terms of digital storage and memory technologies, and basically to create the future, to create a new the memories and storage that will enable our devices, whether it be, I mean, there's a lot of focus on the enterprise side, but it cannot help but also to fall over into the consumer side of things. But to really to push that forward, to create new architectures, new paradigms of the way in which mankind can keep our information, store it, build. So I'll add one more thing with regard to things that are going on that are exciting. There's some, along with the new solid state storage technologies that are out there, it's driving the need for the rest of the stack to be able to go at the same kind of speeds. And that's led to the development of new memory, non-volatile memory devices in the memory bus computers, but also built into this PCIe. In particular, that's led to the development of the NVMe standard activities going on there, which is a very high-speed interface that's very suitable for flash memory and other non-volatile devices. This is creating some big changes both in the data center and also eventually in client-type devices as well. There's whole new designs, paradigms, a significant increase in the speed that's available to people, while still supporting the important control functions that people expect, especially in enterprise host-managed enterprise environments.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you all guests for taking the time to introduce us to Storage Networking Industry Association, and big thanks for everyone for watching Bright Blue Innovation. It was a pleasure to be your host today. Thank you.